Okay, now that you have finished your slip stitch heel flap, you're gonna have ended on a purl row. So now you're about ready to work the slip stitch again, if that's what we were going to do. But instead, what we're going to do is now work on the heel turn. So the heel turn is gonna be really simple, and I promise you it's gonna blow your mind once you get it down. So the first thing that you're gonna do is knit 17 stitches, or however many your pattern calls for. For me, that's 17. Okay, there's 17 stitches right there for you. Now you're going to slip 2. So you're gonna slip, slip, knit. Let me show you that again. So if you notice, let me actually zoom in a little bit for you. So if you notice here, your stitches that are on the needle are on a certain way. If you were to take the stitch off, you would notice that the left bar, the left hand side of the stitch, is on the back end of the needle, and the right bar is on the front, and the needle goes directly in between, with the left hand in the back like this and the right hand bar in the front. Okay, so now that we understand how the stitch is holding on the needle, a slip slip knit means you're going to insert your needle as if to knit. So you'll insert it through the front like this as if to knit, and you're going to slip the stitch, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to slip it like this. So now that left hand side is now in the front of the needle, and then you're going to put them back on the needle like so, and now they're sitting backwards or in reverse, so that the left hand side is here in the front. Now to do the slip slip knit, we're going to knit these two together just like this. So we're going to insert our needle into both stitches. There's one and there's two. Okay, so our needle is in both stitches here. I have both stitches on this needle. I'm going to pull up a stitch as if to knit, and there we've done one decrease, right? Now we're going to knit one. Okay, now we're going to turn our work like this. Is you're going to slip this first stitch here like we were slipping on the previous round. We're going to slip it, and then we're going to purl 3, or however many stitches your pattern calls for the size that you are knitting. For the medium, you're going to purl 3. Then you're going to purl 2 together. So to purl 2 together, you're going to go into both of these 2 stitches here on the needle. Let me get this yarn out of the way, sorry. Okay. You're going to purl these 2 stitches together, and you're going to get the needle in between both stitches, alright? Well, that's why I didn't have this stitch fully on there. Okay, we're going to purl these 2 stitches together. So I have to insert my needle into both of these stitches like this. Okay, you see that here? There's 2 stitches on the needle. I'm going to insert my needle in between both of those stitches. Now I'm going to purl them together like so. Now I'm going to purl 1, and I'm going to turn my work. Just like this. See? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to slip this stitch again, but with the yarn in the back. And now we're going to knit across all of these stitches until there's that gap where we turned our work the last time, right here. See how there's a gap in between your stitches? So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a slip slip knit again, where we slip the stitches and then knit them together to close that gap, just like that. All right, and now we're going to knit one more, and we're going to turn our work. And we're going to repeat the same thing here. So now we're going to slip our first stitch like we did before. We're always slipping that first stitch. we're going to purl across all of these until we get to that gap that we made again. Purling. Okay, and here's that gap. So now we're going to purl these two together, just like we did on the previous round, and that's going to close that gap. All right, just like that, and purl one. Perfect. Okay, now we are going to turn our work again. Once we've turned our work, we're going to continue doing this until we have closed all of the gaps and we've worked all of the stitches on our needles here. So repeat that until you have no longer any more stitches to add in, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, so once you've finished doing your heel turn, I will show you what you need to do next. Now, obviously, this looks a little bit different than the sock that I was knitting on in the tutorial. Unfortunately, I lost the footage for this part, so I need to really quickly make up another heel turn and heel flap for you guys, just so that way I can show you exactly what I was doing. This part is relatively straightforward though, so nothing to be too worried about, but I did want to at least get footage in there for you in case this is your first time making a sock. Some of this might be a little bit foreign. So the last row that we've done is our purl row, and we've worked all of the stitches here. Sorry, all of these stitches we have worked now, and we're ready to start picking up stitches. So if you've left your yarn connected, so this is what our leg would be. So if you've left the yarn connected, you're going to go ahead and just start naturally picking up the stitches along the selvage edge here that I talked about earlier. So this is that selvage edge, so we're going to go ahead and start picking those up. If you cut your yarn, then you're going to go ahead and join right here where you last stopped, where your needle would be. So here you would do a twist and weave, join the new yarn, which would be that color 1, and then continue working around. But if you've left the yarn on, I'm going to show you how we continue using it this way. Okay, so the first thing to pick up stitches that we need to do is figure out our yarn management here. Okay, so here's where we left off. This would be what would be my leg. I only did just a little bit just to show you. And the first thing we need to do when we pick up the stitches is we want to pick up an extra stitch on this bar here. So I'm going to zoom in even more. That's nice and close. Hopefully I can not be so shaky. Alright, so here is our stitches, right? And this is the bar in between the stitches. This one right here. We're going to pick up a stitch in here. We're going to pick up and twist that stitch so that way we can close up a gap that will join. So I like to use my other needle to help me with this. So the first thing I'll do is first pick up this bar here, and let me see if I can make this a little bit more clearer. So here's the last stitch in color 1 that we did, right? And this is the stitch that's on the needle. So there's a tiny bar in between those. That's the one we want to pick up. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up, and I'm going to slip it on to this needle like this, like a regular stitch, right? Instead of knitting it this way like you normally would knit a stitch, we're going to go in through the back actually, and it's going to look kind of like that. Okay? So instead of going like a normal stitch like this, this is how you would normally knit, we want to go behind this bar through the back, pick up our stitch here, and knit that way. So that's going to twist the stitch, and that's going to help close up that gap. Okay, now what we need to do is pick up an extra stitch as well from that first cast in, from that first stitch in that new color, because we did one row of just knit stitches. So we're going to pick that one up. So we're going to have picked up 2 extra more stitches than the selvage edge stitches. And I'll show you a little bit more clearly what the salvage edge stitches are here. So the first one we have, you'll see, is that they have a kind of V look to them. Hopefully this doesn't have an awkward white balance and you can actually see what I'm showing. So here's this V. Each of these are the slip stitches because we were slipping the first stitch on both the right side and the wrong side, and it creates this extra loose little V. We want to go underneath the whole V here, pick up both legs, and pick up a stitch like this. Okay? If you find that a little bit difficult, feel free to stick your needle inside of that stitch like this. See how I'm sticking my needle inside through the back like that? And then that'll help you be able to knit it a little bit easier here. You can also try knitting it, picking it up through the front. Just do whatever you find easiest to pick up this stitch here. Okay, and you're going to do that for all of the stitches that you had a salvage edge for, which should equal the amount of repeats that you did for your heel flap. So for me, since I was knitting a size medium, I did 14 rows of the slip stitch heel. So I should have 14 salvage stitches to pick up plus the extra 2. So I'm adding a total of 16 stitches to this needle. So I'm going to continue picking these up, and you can skip ahead or pause the video, whatever you feel like you need to do. You can rewatch or continue watching me. Hopefully I can keep my camera in focus. Just like that, just picking up the stitches. Okay. Then, once you have picked up all of your stitches, you're going to work across the needle into your new color. I have the wrong color in my hand. I would cut it. I would cut this yarn here. So that's what you'll need to do. You'll need to cut this one. This is color 2. I plan on using this yarn for different projects, so I'm not going to. But now you're just going to work across this needle here, which had the rest of the heel turn stitches on there. I'm just going to work it normally across this one here. Just knitting every stitch. Okay, I'm on my last stitch here, and done. Alright, now I'm going to pick up these salvage edges on the other side, and make sure you pick up the same amount of stitches that you picked up on this side, so that way we have an even amount of stitches on our needle. It's the most important part when coming to this next area because we will be doing decreases. So once again, I'll show you how we're going to pick those up. Here's that V. We're going to go under both, pick up a stitch. Okay. Here's that V again, under both, like that. Pick up a stitch. Here's that V, pick up a stitch. Continue. Pick up a stitch. Okay, I have one more salvage stitch right here. And then here is that first row of knits that we did. We're going to pick that one up. Okay. And now, same thing, we're going to pick up the bar in between these stitches here on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my needle out. It's going to be a little bit more useful to me up here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one out. Okay, so now that I've got that on there, get my tail out of the way. Okay. And here's that bar again. So here are the stitches normally, and there's that one bar right here. We're going to pick up a stitch in there. I'm going to pull my needle out for this. Okay, let me focus. We're going to pick up this stitch here. Same thing, put it on the stitch, the needle like that, and knit through the back loop. Just like that. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and slip this stitch back on with these. Alright, and now we have picked up all of the stitches that we need, and we're going to be able to start working around. So now what you're going to do is you're going to knit all the way around these stitches here on the front of the leg, and then knit all the way around until you get to the last 3 stitches on this needle. I'll meet back up with you once we've done that. Okay, so now I am going to attempt to knit all of these stitches on our selvage edge that we just picked up. So this is the twisted stitch that we picked up to close the gap. This is the picked up stitch from the first round of knit stitches, and then this is the first selvage edge stitch. Okay, just gonna knit across, and then once you knit halfway through, you're gonna place a new beginning of round stitch marker, and that way you can always know exactly where you are when you're starting your round. Here is the last 3 stitches. So this is going to be the beginning of our decrease round. Knit these 2 stitches together like that. So I'm just going in through that second stitch, and I'm going to knit them together like so, and then I'm going to knit this last stitch. Okay, now we're going to turn our work. We're going to knit across this needle now. This is the front of the leg. We're just going to knit regularly across this. So every one of these are a knit stitch. Do that now as well. Knit across all of them like normal. And turn our work again. Okay, and now we are going to knit the first stitch, then slip, slip, knit the next 2. So I'll show you that here. We're going to knit this first stitch like so, and now we're going to slip, slip, and knit. And that is going to be our decrease round here. Let me fix that. Slip, slip, knit. Okay, so there we go. We've decreased 1 stitch on both sides of our sock. And now we're going to knit across. Remember that we have a new beginning of round here in the middle of the sock. So for this next round, we're going to knit everything in regular stockinette. So go ahead and knit all the way around, and then we're going to repeat the decrease round. So after you've knit 1 full round, we're going to then decrease on the sides again. Okay, I have finished knitting all the way around. I'm going to repeat those 2 rounds, so 1 round of decreasing on both ends, and then 1 round of just stockinette. And I'm going to do that until I have 32 stitches back on needle 2, or until I've decreased all of the stitches that I have picked up. So once you've done that and you have a total of 32 stitches on needle 1 and 32 stitches on needle 2, I will meet back up with you again. Okay, now that you have gone and decreased your total rounds to get back to whatever your stitch count originally was, you're going to continue knitting all the way around in stockinette every single round until you get to where you want to start doing your toe decreases. For me, I find that it's pretty convenient if you stop right around the top of your pinky toe. That seems to be the best spot for me to be able to get the correct length for my foot. So you're just going to continue knitting every stitch and no more decreases, and it's going to be super nice and smooth sailing from here on forward. So I'll meet you when you're ready to change colors for your toe decreases. Okay, so now your sock is going to look something like this. I've finished my foot and I'm ready to start decreasing for the toe. So you can go ahead and remove your stitch marker and finish knitting on the bottom part of the foot. So I'm just going to complete this needle here. Okay, and now we're going to get ready to switch colors again. Here is the contrasting color I'm going to be using, and I'm going to go ahead and snip this yarn, making sure to give myself a good tail again to be able to weave in, probably around there. Okay, I'm gonna move this out of the way here. Okay, now I'm getting ready to use my contrasting color, which was for me color 2. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do my typical method here. Give myself plenty of tail. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and insert like this. Grab this color here in between. Now I'm gonna grab my tail yarn over here, hold that over, do my little weave, bring it back and pull tight. Okay, just like that, and pull up. And now the next thing that we're gonna do is we're actually gonna do a decrease. So we're gonna slip, slip, and knit these two together. So SSK, go ahead and knit them together, and then you'll continue knitting on. Again, I like to readjust and tighten these as much as I need when adding contrasting colors. So we're going to knit across this needle, but stop when you have 3 stitches left. Okay, so here we go. Okay, oops, went too far. Now that I have 3 stitches on the needle, I'm going to knit 2 together. Okay, knit 2 together like so, and then knit 1. And there is the first part of our decrease round. Now I go and do the other side here. So now for needle 2, we're going to go ahead and knit 1, and then SSK. Like so, and go ahead and knit till 3 before the end of the needle. Alright, now that we are 3 stitches before the needle, we're going to go ahead and knit 2 together and knit 1. Okay, so that is the first of our decrease rounds done. I'm going to go ahead and tighten these again. Okay, and so the next round that we are going to do, it's going to start here on needle 1. So you'll notice this now becomes the beginning of round, which is why we took out the stitch marker. Okay, So now we are going to just knit entirely across every stitch. So you're going to be repeating those 2 rounds. You're going to do 1 round of decreases on all 4 corners here, and then a round of just stockinette. And you're going to do that until you have a total of 14 stitches on each needle, or however much your pattern calls for. Okay, so I will meet back up with you once you have done all of your toe decreases, and then I will show you how to close up your sock and weave in your ends, and then you're going to be pretty much done. So I will meet back up with you then. Okay, also really quick, I wanted to show you why we do a jogless join when it comes to switching colors. And as you can see here, when I was doing my toe decreases, I completely forgot to carry that bottom stitch up on to the second round of the next color. And you can really start to see here, let me zoom in, make it really nice and easy for you, where that join happens here. And what happens is the stitch that's next to it is you get a really harsh line because you can tell exactly where the color change happened. Whereas down here, when we do a jogless join, you don't have that. You really can't tell where the colors switch. They're all very nice and even and put in the correct spots that they need to be in. You really can't tell here where the beginning of the round is. I mean, you might be able to tell a little bit, but it really helps minimize it quite a bit. Ta-da! You're just about done. Now all we have left is to Kitchener stitch this closed, and I'm just going to show you how to do that now. So the first thing that you're going to need is your tail. You're going to want to cut your tail so that way you have plenty of room to work with. And I like to go about the length of the sock. That's how I find is the best way. It gives me a good enough tail to weave in the end and then also finish doing the Kitchener stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way. So now that I have my tail, you're going to need your darning needle, which I have here. And I'm just going to thread this really quick. This is the way I like to thread them. I find it easiest. You just pinch it and then pinch it through. It's relatively simple to get in once you've done that. Okay, so the biggest thing with the Kitchener stitch is you want to make sure you have the exact amount of stitches on each needle. That's really the only thing that matters when it comes to doing this stitch. So make sure that you have the same amount of stitches on this needle as you do on this needle, which you should if you had your stitch count correct. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do to set up your Kitchener stitch is you're going to insert on the needle that's closest to you. So this first needle, you're going to insert the darning needle purlwise as if to purl, but you're going to pull it through all the way. Give it a nice little tight squeeze. Now you're going to insert the needle as if to stitch, the darning needle as if to stitch onto the second needle, and you're going to pull it through also. And you might need to just give it a little bit of a tug to get it to even out. Okay, so now that we're set up, I'm going to show you how to do the Kitchener stitch. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to take the stitch on the first needle, you're going to insert your darning needle knitwise, pull that stitch off, then you're going to insert your darning needle purlwise on that second stitch. Keep that one on the needle though. Go ahead and pull it tight. Okay, now we're going to insert our darning needle purlwise on the stitch closest to the edge on the back needle, and then we're going to insert our darning needle knitwise as if to knit. Leave that stitch on the needle. Okay, so there we've done 2 stitches. We've bound off 2 stitches on our needles. Okay, so we're going to continue to repeat that. So once again, we're going to insert the darning needle as if to knit, pull that stitch off the needle. Then we're going to insert our needle as if to purl, pull the darning needle through, keep that stitch on the needle. Okay, same thing here. This time insert as if to purl, pull that off the needle. Then we're going to insert as if to knit and keep that one on the needle. Just like that. So that's not too bad, right? So we're going to continue to do that. So once again, insert our stitch as if to knit, take that off the needle. Then we're going to insert our stitch as if to purl, keep it on the needle, pull through. Okay, now same thing, insert as if to purl, and then insert as if to knit, keep it on the needle. So here we go, knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on. Knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on. Knit off, purl on, knit off, whoops, sorry, purl off, knit on. Once again, knit off, purl on, purl off, knit on. And you do that until you have all of your stitches bound off. Okay, now that we have 2 stitches left on the needle, we're going to just do the exact same thing. We're going to knit and take that one off the needle, and we're going to purl and take that one off the needle. Now we're just going to pull through, and that'll close off our Kitchener stitch, just like that. And you can see here, you have a really nice, pretty minimal seam because of that Kitchener stitch. And especially when you hold it open like this, you can barely tell. Okay, so there you go. Ooh, you have officially finished your sock. Now the only thing you have left to do is weave in your ends. The way that I like to do that is pretty simple as well. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in. So the way that I like to weave in my ends here, so let me get this back on the darning needle. I like to first go under this first stitch here, so that way I kind of tuck it back into the sock in a sense. I like to go under this one. And there's really no right or wrong way to weave in your ends. I think we all have our preferences. Okay, so now that I've done that, I like to kind of just follow the stitch below. And I kind of just let the stitches guide me, to be honest. I find that that's the easiest way for me to weave in my ends neatly. Okay. Now I'm going to come up and under like this. See how I'm just kind of following that stitch there? Under here, like that. Okay. And then now I like to just weave it in a few times. I usually go pick one stitch to go under, and then I'll start following that stitch pattern here. Here, you can see that I'm going to follow this stitch, how it goes under, oops, sorry, and then I'm going to pull it back over here. So now I see that it's going to go up and under this stitch, oops, just like that, and like once you get the tension evened out, you see you're just kind of repeating the stitches here. And I find that that's the nicest way for me to weave in my ends. Do that a few times. Just go over a few of the stitches and then you'll be pretty good. Just weave it in and out. Just enough to where you're comfortable and confident that it's not going to come out. Okay, so the next one would be here. Don't mind my fingers. Okay, to give it a nice pull, massage it a little bit so there's good even tension, and then I'll go ahead and snip. So you can go ahead and do that with all of the other ends that you have here. So you can turn your sock inside out. Now give a nice little tug at the spots where you changed color, and then go ahead and weave in your ends, and then you are done. Okay.